we're back. It's episode number
11
of the Brain Trust Poker Podcast. Excited about this one. We've got a great guest. We got a ton to talk about. We've got some WSOP scandal. We've got some things we hate about the poker table. And we've got a man who he's got a job. He's got a family. He also plays poker, so he doesn't have a ton of time. So let's get right to it. We're going to welcome a man named John, who you know as Slow Poker. John, how you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So let's kick off right away. We got to start it with kind of how we start with every guest, and that's just how did you get into poker? Where did it start for you?
Yeah, so apart from, learning 5-card draw as a little kid, I didn't really follow poker at all. I didn't really know anything about it. I wasn't, most people, when you hear their origin story, it's like, oh, playing with college buddies and then, upgraded from like 20-cent tournaments to, dollar tournaments or whatever. For me, it was kind of happenstance where my family, my wife and kids moved a bunch, and we ended up settling at our current stop. We showed up at this neighborhood, and we didn't know anybody, and we went to this chili cook-off and met a bunch of our neighbors, and 5 or 6 guys came up to me and said, "Hey, nice to meet you. Do you play poker?" I was like, "No, not at all." Like, "Oh, it's poker night. We'll teach you how." So my first poker game was a 25-cent, 50-cent limit. Some hold'em, but mostly, all the pass the trash, hide the queen, all whatever. All I don't even remember. Midnight baseball.
Sure.
Every card is wild. All that nonsense. So yeah, I learned that way, and then just immediately fell in love with the game, and just kept going back to that game. And then once I realized that quarter limit is not really poker. No offense to those out there who like that kind of game. I immediately sought out like a no limit, higher stakes game, and then I played my first casino poker in 2019, and then the world melted. So yeah, I'm pretty new to poker as a middle-aged man.
So you got hustled by your neighbors.
They let me win, I guess. I was killing it in the game 52nd Street, which nice. I can't begin to explain how that game works. And so I thought, like, well, not only do I like this game, but I made like $15, like easy.
Oh my gosh!
And it's only been smooth sailing since.
And so at that point, you were debating quitting your job, right? Yeah.
I put in my notice the next day, and then realized that it wasn't as easy. And I pleaded for my job back.
Nice. Okay, something we got to talk about before we move too far into this interview is the fact that you and Tom are both sitting in the same living room. Are you guys just right next to each other there?
Yeah. So yes. Tom and I, we have like an on again, off again thing. It's hard to put into words really, but I think we're good now, right? Like I feel like everything's feeling.
Usually I'm in the basement, so I kind of stay out of the way.
Yeah, it's fine. We don't really talk about like the details, but yeah, we are back to cohabitating. It's pretty good.
Mm-hmm. So it kind of stays as a will they won't they sort of a situation.
Yeah, I'm more of a won't and Tom's a will, but let's not get into it.
Oh, I love it. All right, well, let's go. I want to hear from everybody on this one, but we had the WSOP. All kinds of things going on, but I want to talk about the main event final table. Is everybody familiar with the GTO, being used, all the solvers on the sidelines and stuff? And I want to hear what you guys think. Everyone's talking about it, but do you think is this a problem? What is the solution? What do you guys think? John, I'm going to let you start us off. What are your thoughts here?
So I've kind of stayed away from the debates on social media, but I would say I haven't scrutinized the rule book, right? So I don't know what's truly kosher, but I would say that my sense is that they did say at the outset, like no solvers anywhere near the table. So that sounds like it's not cool. But then on the other hand, apparently like as long as it's not during a hand, then it's okay. I think if he was like actually sitting down and reviewing during a hand, that would be pretty bad. I don't think it's a great look for poker. I think most people are in agreement about that. Like only the true sort of GTO poker nerds really feel like, are you going to take away, our very like lifeblood? I think that, I think it's a gray area, and I'm not ready to sort of martyr anybody. I think, like someone said on social media, the guy made it that far without having a solver on his rails. So
yeah,
he clearly, for the most part, earned it the old fashioned way. So yeah, I'm rambling, but I think I haven't made a decision, but I do think that definitely feel like it's not a great look, and it's not gonna be great for bringing in more poker players to poker if it's all about sort of like scrutinizing GTO Wizard.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and I think it's kind of a funny transition that poker's gone through, where originally it had this feel of like what they portray in all the James Bond movies, where it's like, oh, the professionals are really good at like reading people and sensing what's going on and making a great fold or knowing when they're ahead. And now it's like a bunch of nerds gathered around a laptop. Come and see and come and be a part of this. Like, yeah, I don't see a James Bond movie in the future where they're like, he's in the casino in the high stakes game looking, and then like goes to his rail and checks his laptop for what the solver says, right? Like
the villain changes the Wi-Fi password, like it's like it's huge, it's extremely dramatic.
The suspense, yeah. Jess, tell me what you think.
No, I agree with like John's sentiments about it's just a look. I mean, I think next year, who would want to put $10,000 down knowing that, that this is kind of what people are doing, that they're using computer solvers, and not that they're using it in the game per se, but just that they use them like in general. Sure. Like there's a lot of players that just have never used anything like that. So I think, yeah, I could see that change next year. That's my only feedback.
Yeah. Tom, any thoughts? What do you think?
I would say it looks bad. They could use them during the breaks, when nobody's around. There's no way to police that anyway. We have the same problem in chess, right? Like there's lots of tools that you can use. You cannot use any tool during a game, but between games, you absolutely can do whatever you want. So, I think during a break, a person should be allowed to do whatever they want. But even between hands, I don't know. It seems like it's kind of like whoever has the best pit crew is going to have some kind of advantage, and some people might not even have a crew.
Sure.
Which is, makes it sort of unfair.
Sure. Yeah. The unpopular kid loses final table due to no friends. Yeah. That's a really sad story. All right. Well, let's shift out of that. I wanted to hear your thoughts there, but let's come out of that. I wanted to, Jess, I'm going to throw to you. You had some questions for John that I think are really good about his channel and pacing and some of that stuff. And why don't you take it? I want to hear your thoughts.
Well, so I was watching your videos, and it's like when I watch a video, it's like every second it feels like there's action going on. Like it feels like it's very funny. It's well edited, and there's like always movement. And Sean here, he has a channel, and I've seen him kind of edit a bit, and it takes so much time. Like this thing takes so much time. And so watching your videos, I'm curious, and I know I kind of, when I looked, it looked like the long format videos, like kind of you're putting out once a month. So I'm curious about like how much time you put in each video. And yeah, let's start there.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that, because I think, well, let me sort of give you a lead into this. So one of the things that, my channel is not, the most popular, in poker, but I have a very, I know I'm cursing it by saying this out loud, but I have a very like unusual, like fan to troll ratio. Like my audience, like while not, Owen or Rampage level, is like by and large just they're show up like, with them, so I have some friends, or the new friends in poker, where they'll like show up with like a bottle of wine and like, put it on the TV, and it's like, they see it as like a appointment TV. That sounds arrogant, but my point is, what I was leading to is some of the only negative comments I get, and it's actually quite a compliment, is like, dude, like, why are you so slow to like upload your videos? And I love it, by the way, side note, I love that it's about slow uploads, which is as if it's like a matter of like my dial up is like way too slow. And it's just a matter if I could just upload faster. Anyway. Yeah. So Jess, it takes I'll go through my process and you can understand, I think, why it takes me so long to make a video. So first and foremost, I have a career and a family. So that right off the bat takes up a ton of my time. But if you just look at, if you just, even if I didn't have that, I don't live anywhere near poker. So at the quickest I get to poker is a 5 hour drive.
Oh my God.
Or maybe
wow.
a flight. Okay, so that's thing. So the thing number one is it takes me days to get to the poker, play the poker, film the poker, get back, and just sort of like reset, right? So right off the bat, we're talking days there. Then I'm not just making a sort of, take Rampage. Rampage is, I mean, he's got some good high production value and some of his stuff, but some of his stuff is just like, here I am, I play the poker, I'm just sort of narrating on the fly, and it's a poker vlog. It's its own thing, and it's not. I mean, he's one of the pioneers, right? I didn't want to do anything like that. I want to do something totally different. Unfortunately, and this is I blame myself for this. As I set up this, so let me get back to what I was saying. So I have to once I have the footage and the hands in my head, I sit down and sort of have to brainstorm concepts. And only when I have a story and an arc for it, then I start to outline. And then after the outline's ready, then I write the script and another draft of the script and really punch up the script. And this is like the part that I don't think people realize is, for me, and this may be specific to me, is I'm not an actor. So voiceover takes me ages. So I'll be in the closet across the room here for acoustics, and I will take 25 to 40 minutes just on one hand, which, by the way, because I have my hands are fast paced, you see it for like 45 seconds, but that took me a half hour to record because I'm not an actor. So I'm stumbling over my words. I have to get the intonation right, all that. Finally sit down with the audio file, figure out isolate the clips that work well. Then that's before we get to editing. So then we're editing. I had this incredible editor. For the first like 15 episodes, it was just me, but then incredible shout out to Adam. And then we get an editing and like curating the music and grabbing this video here and making sure this transparent version of Ed Harris looks right and all this stuff. So people are like, I upload faster. It's like I'm going as fast as I can, but it's just like every video takes me. I mean, if I could get it done in 2 weeks, that would be a miracle. So I'm trying to figure out ways to cut some corners. Like maybe I won't use my voice, or just use like an AI voice, which sounds, I know people don't love that, but maybe I can get a video out faster. But I'm doing more short form right now because it's just so much faster. And yeah, so long answer to a question about length. So there you go.
So I'm new. The way I ended up finding your channel is that we did this poker rankings thing, and I didn't even know about your channel, which is shame on me. I'm on this space, but I just don't have a ton of time to watch poker vlogs. And a bunch of people were like, "Hey, slow poker," and I'm like, "All right, I'm gonna get in there and give it a try because I got to check it out." First video I clicked on was your Deuce 7 video. And we're coming back to that because I have to ask you more about that. But and then I was like, wow, this is really entertaining. I see why people are watching it. So I don't know the entire background, but I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who have seen a few of yours and don't know the background as well. Give us a little bit of that. Like, what is the career, if you're willing to share it? What is the career? What is the family life? Like what else are you juggling? Because it's easy to watch YouTube and be like, well, why doesn't he have something every day? But
right.
But you have a real life. Tell us about it.
Yeah. So my whole life, I've made a living writing comedies for the stage. So I'm a playwright. That's been my life. I wrote my first play in high school, and it had sort of a kind of shocking early success. I didn't expect it to actually get produced as much as it did. So based on that, I became a playwright, and there's more sort of a story there, but I'll keep it simple. But yeah, I'm a playwright, and that's primarily what brings home the bacon. And we love bacon at this house. So yeah, I'm a playwright by trade. I have a lovely family. I have a boy and a girl and a wife, and they have their needs, and my career has its needs. And I've actually, as of the last couple of years, all my plays were published, and as of very recently, almost all my plays are now self-published. So that deal is done, and so I'm handling the licensing and the correspondence myself now, which I haven't done since I was, much younger. So this is a large part of my week is spent either being with the family, writing, or handling the business side of it. And then, like every so often driving 5 hours away to play poker and making a silly poker show.
So now that you're self-published, do you get to increase your bacon fee? Is that the reason you went that route?
It's a long story. It's not,
Okay.
it's not,
Not worth telling.
it's too boring. It's not,
Okay.
but it's good. It's a good thing.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Right on. All right, back to the Deuce 7 video. I got to know, how did that come about? Like, was this just something that, did you weird out it in your head and you're like, okay, I got to make a video, or were you like intentionally setting out to do it? Or give us the background on that video.
Sure. So interestingly enough, so what Sean's referring to, for those who don't know, I would say probably one of my biggest calling cards. Sorry, the cushion under my chair is like slipping. All right, I'm back. Is this video about getting bluffed by 7 Deuce, music video called F Me Got Bluffed by the 7 Deuce. What a lot of people only know about the video, and they don't know that it comes from an actual hand on Hustler Casino Live. And so there's a whole episode 19, I want to say, of my show that it's all about the entire episode. It's a very different kind of episode than my other episodes, but it's all my night playing Hustler Casino Live, the highest high stakes I've ever played. And at the very last hand of the night, I got bluffed by the 7. I forgot the 7 Deuce game was on. And the hand didn't make a bit of sense. And then, I made the fold and he flips it over. I'm like, ooh. I misplayed the hand. I misplayed the hand top to bottom. And had I known it was the last hand, I would have just folded. But I made like a light 3-bet because like I'm supposed to like splash it up.
Yeah.
At that game. And anyway, so I was at Hustler Casino in California for a meetup game for slow poker. So I had this great time. Just like a bunch of people showed up. It was just an amazing time. And then I got the call because I was corresponding with Kyle over at Hustler Casino and Billy, who's no longer there, DGAF. And like, this was 2 weeks after the Robbie J. Lou thing. And so everyone was either wanting to be on the show or like get the hell away from the show.
Right.
And so 2 weeks later, someone had to bail, or someone was like, no way, I'm not going on that show because everyone's cheating, whatever. All the theories were swirling. So they texted me. They're like, hey, you want in? I was like, well, let me talk to my wife. So I talked to my wife. I was like, so I'm about to put 10 grand on the table for this show. And I've seen this show. It doesn't play like a normal poker game. So I have to be prepared to just dust off 10K. How do we feel? Yeah. We talked about it. Anyway, long story short, I played tight as I'm known to play, and I played pretty well with a few obvious exceptions. And then the very last hand, I just should have just folded, and I got bluffed by the 7 Deuce. Anyway, got home, and it took. I couldn't figure out what to do with. As often is the case, I have all this stuff. I have these hands, I have these moments, and then I was just driving the car, and it just like a bolt of lightning. I was like, that's it. I've got it. And it was like, I forget how much I lost in the hand. It was a few $1,000s, but it was like, I would have paid triple I was so excited to make this video. Like I had to pull over and like just write down everything I thought as quickly as possible. I know that sounds like rationalizing, like, no, you want the thousands of dollars, but it's like, no, truly, like by the way, like I won more than that when the same guy who bluffed me, his name's DK. I didn't realize that he was going all in blind every time the stream reached 1,000 likes. Oh. I forgot that. So someone raised under the gun. I called with a suited ace, and he just jams. And I didn't realize that he was just going to jam. And so she folded under the gun. I'm like, and I'm sitting there like, well, he could have anything, obviously. Like, am I going to call for like 3 or 4 or 5 grand, whatever it was, like with ace high? Like I should, and like mathematically I should, but I was like, yeah, I don't love it. So yeah, I mean, I didn't actually. So anyway, long way of saying the 7 Deuce came from that experience. And I was every so often like I'll have these like driving moments where I'm like, oh, that's it, that's the idea. And I was so happy to for that idea to hit me randomly out of the ether.
So the main chorus obviously were the first words that went through your head as soon as the hand was played. You're like, I got the lyrics, I just need a melody.
No, I mean, yeah, that would be, it'd be pretty great if that was the case. No, it was just like I didn't know what to do with it, and then I don't even know if I was listening to the original song because it's some people don't know it's based on a real song, and yeah, I must maybe I was even listening to the song and it hit me. I'm not sure.
That's cool.
I forget. It's been a long time.
Ah, that's cool. Great video. It was fun.
Thank you.
And
Thank
your other one where you dress as every character, also excellent. I won't dive way into that, but if you haven't seen it, go check out Slow Poker and the videos on there.
Episode 28. That's the I do a rousing musical number about making a lot of pennies.
Yeah, it was very good.
Poker needs more of that kind of thing, I think.
Yes, I agree.
I agree.
It makes it a lot more relatable, and even people who are maybe not poker players are going to find, it kind of amusing. I think.
Yeah, that's the thing that I think people forget, because there's a lot of vitriol and anger in poker, and I think people forget sometimes that most people learn poker and first play poker around a table, just messing around, goofing around, having a beer. Just like poker is it's like going bowling or watching a football game. It's just like it's a way to fraternize. It's a way to just be yourself. And once it becomes this like just everyone's angry and everyone, I don't know. I love what Greg Goes All In is doing, and Sethi Poker and Ryan DePaul, where it's like let's inject some like humor back into this game, so it's not all solvers and not all sort of tough guy who's got the bigger like guts right here and right down there, like who's more of a man. It's just like Greg and I are constantly trying to inject as much sort of femininity into our channels to be like, yeah, you know what, like go, you can take all your sort of like masculinity and you know where to shove it right up that butt where I'll stop there. I was gonna head
so moving on to the next question. Very good. Let's see. So I want to ask you this because I think it's fun to hear from everybody. But if you were to give advice to a new player, like what helped you the most when you were first getting started, that took your game from like, I can only play for quarters, I don't know what I'm doing, to like, oh, okay, this is really helpful. I've got a good idea of poker now.
Oh man. I mean, well, first and foremost, I mean, really make sure you understand the hierarchy of hands. Like I remember in those early days, I'm like, I have the flush, I have the best possible flush, and I'm raising and he's raising, and it's just like, I didn't see it. There was a paired board. And I didn't know what just it's obvious, right? So just understand that like, a full house beats a flush unless it's short deck, whatever. We won't get into that. So so that, and just I have a whole list of stuff and I'm making some videos about them, which is just like, just because your hand improved doesn't mean that theirs didn't improve more. You're like, oh, I have trips now. It's like, well, they were repping a set, so maybe you have a boat. Maybe they have a boat. Anyway, so I'm trying to think of like simpler stuff where, I mean, it's just, I guess, patience. I would just say be patient. And I know people don't hate to be patient, especially if you want to like have a good time. But like, if you play the cards the right way and you make the right bluffs and pick the right spots, you're going to lose every so often in dumb ways. But over time, if you make the right kinds of plays and and you don't force it, you don't push it, I think it's a big, I need to take, I would say this also, like, I think tilt is a real thing. And I think if you are steaming, you have to get up and take a walk. And I have not done that before, but my friend who was featured in my last long form, I won't name him because whatever, he doesn't care. His name's Ethan. I call him my boy Ethan in this episode. My boy Ethan, we played cash a couple times this summer, the World Series of Poker, and he absolutely was on full-blown monkey tilt. Like, I can't even begin to tell you. And I kept telling him, I was like, you have to take a walk. You have to, like, and he didn't. I was like, he's like, I know. I was like, no, please, I almost like picked him up. And he was like 5-bet jamming with 6-5 suited. I mean, it's just like, he was just all over the place. It's like the hand we played together. I almost want to like do a hand history because it was like one of the most absurd hands I've ever played. And I was like, why did we just play that hand?
Yeah.
Like, you have to take a walk. So anyway, so taking a walk when you're tilted and being patient.
Great advice. Totally agree with you. These guys in the interview definitely are very good at that. I'd say patience is their strong suit as well. So that's great advice if you're new. But now give us something like something that's helped you the most, that's more advanced over the last, let's say, year or so. What is something that's really changed your game or altered your game in the last year?
I would say that I've gotten better at exploiting when. Well, it depends on who you're playing, right? So I have, if you're playing a calling station who doesn't know poker, you have to adjust your game. But like if you're playing people who understand poker to some degree, I've gotten better at taking advantage of range advantage and and having blockers to the nuts and things like that, where it's just like you can't have the best hands, so let's see what you got. I played when I was at Aria like a couple of series ago. I made that mistake with someone who was just not going to fold. Like they had top pair and they're not going to fold. It doesn't matter that I have the blocker to the nuts. They're not folding a pair, and you have to know that too. So yeah, I've just gotten. I think that, and this is maybe this sounds too elementary for advanced players, but I think just reminding yourself that like it's not about the cards you have. It's about the pre-flop action, and then take advantage of that. Like you can't just wait. You can't wait for. I know I said be patient before, but I'm saying you can't just like wait to just flop it. And I mean, maybe that's not advanced enough. I'm trying to think of an advanced. I'm not an advanced player. Like I'm not studied in the game. I've studied by reps, right? So it's not like I haven't joined a training site for more than a few weeks. I'm just I don't want to say a field player, but I understand the math. I understand the sizing to some degree, but maybe I'm the wrong person to ask about it with advanced lessons. But yeah, I would say just being able to take advantage of use blockers to your advantage.
No, I think that's really good stuff, because I think plenty of people will come in, learn the game, get a lot of the basic fundamental stuff in, but then holding the ace to the suit that's just come in or whatever, they're like, oh, I don't have it. I'll fold here, or just check, give up. And there's a lot of potential with a hand like that. To your point, recognizing the opponent that will and won't fold. Jess and I were just talking before this about a bluff I ran last night that I like. In retrospect, I'm like, what was I doing? Like, if an opponent doesn't know you're bluffing them, why are you bluffing them?
Right.
So.
And speaking of that, stack depth is important, right? So I'll give you an example where I was playing 1-2, which I haven't played in a while, but we were playing this sort of friendly game with a bunch of content people, and I had ace 10, and I was the pre-flop aggressor, and by the turn, I knew he had like a small set, because he check raised me on the turn. It was like a second ace on the turn, and then the river was a king, and he bet, and I shoved. But I didn't see that, like, in this game, he probably had like a couple hundred behind.
Right.
And so it's just like, he's like, well, if you have ace king,
right.
It's like, that's what I'm ripping. I mean, but if we were deeper, that's a hard call to make, right? Sure. I mean, I'm the pre-flop aggressor. I'm the only one who could have ace king.
Yeah.
I knew I was beat, but not enough behind, right?
Right.
Like, you got to know, like, is this enough to get them to fold a boat here, a bad boat?
Right. So you had a great story to tell. Yeah, you have a great story to tell, but a person that won't read your script, right?
Correct. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Well, Tom, I haven't thrown to you yet for a question. Do you have any thoughts here? Anything you want to ask?
Okay, I have a question about being a playwright. Have you ever considered writing a play, something like along the lines of something like a 12 Angry Men, but at a poker table?
Yeah, I have. It's tricky about the poker table is that it's it's round, so that's tough for the stage unless you're in the round, which is a theater term, which is like where the audience is like surrounding a sort of circular or circular adjacent stage. But yeah, I've been toying around with that. I'm thinking more TV than the stage.
Okay.
Maybe film. The stage in poker. I will say that is it Patrick Farber? I think I found out recently he's a he's a poker player, like old school English poker player. I think it's maybe I'm getting his name wrong. I'm probably getting his name wrong right now. He I'm probably combining two playwrights' names. He wrote Closer, that was made into a film. Natalie Portman and Jude Law and Clive Owen and Julia Roberts. Maybe I had that wrong. Anyway, yes, I thought about it, but it's hard. It can be hard. It'd be hard to put poker on stage. But I'm not against the challenge.
Have you dabbled in film and all that stuff before? You've written for the screen?
I have a few scripts. I've never taken it past the sort of page level, but okay. I have a few TV shows I've written and some sort of short film that sort of started at the stage, was adapted to film, but yeah, nothing big.
Cool. Jess, you had a question talking like future plans and stuff, so I'll kick to you. I want to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so you mentioned having an editor for your videos, and with, Greg Goes All In, I'd imagine now, like, he has sponsorships, he posts videos regularly, like kind of down that professional vlogger route. Then you have folks like, like Rampage, who kind of is like trying to get like more in the professional poker playing. He's doing both, but like with poker for you, what are your hopes? Like you have this channel, you try to play regularly. What are your hopes for the future?
Yeah, good question. I don't think I would want to be a professional player, like a full-time player. I wouldn't rule it out, but I don't think that's my speed. I don't think I can't see clocking in every day for 8 hours and going to a card room and playing poker. I guess it just depends. I guess this is going to sound really, I don't know if I should say this. Well, I'll say it. Obviously, and this gets back to sort of advice for players, table selection is a huge part of poker, right? Like, I still haven't gotten the hang of like, oh, I should leave this table. Like, I am not anywhere near in the best half of this table. I need to go. Like, why am I still here? Why am I trying to prove to myself that I'm better? Why am I trying to, just pull the wool over my eyes? Like, just switch tables. Like, go be somewhere where we're the top two players of the table. Like it's that easy, right? Like that's what table changes are for, right? So that's advice. Like, change tables. By God, if you're like in the bottom half of the players. But so that's the thing. If I find like a casino or a card room or a table where everyone is just like awful, that probably also means that they're not really the best people. That sounds terrible. I don't mean to sound, that sounds so obnoxious, but I'm saying like if I find like the most lucrative table, it might just be like scum of the earth, like just brain dead people, which that's so like, why do you want that to be your workplace? I don't know. That sounds really, I don't mean to sound like elitist or like snobby, but it's just like, I always think like my favorite people in poker, like my favorite people I like are just like so like cool and smart and just like thinking players, and they're just great to be around. Like if I played with them every day, like I would lose so much money because they're so good and they're so like, they just know all the angles, and they just like think about poker like it's like they're Neo in the Matrix. It's just like, I love talking to them about poker. It's so great. But if I spent every day with them, like I'd love to just be there to like have fun, but like I would just torch money. So yeah, so I think that's the big hang up. Also, just like I just don't think at this stage of my life like that makes sense. So sorry, Jess, all these answers have been long. I hope that's okay, but I think that, and that sounded really obnoxious. I don't know, but I don't mean to besmirch poker players. Poker. I love poker. Almost every interaction I've had at the table, with some massive exceptions, have been pleasant. But I think I do get more joy out of the creative side of it. Like I do find myself getting more steamed at the poker table where someone, gets there in a stupid way. And I'm finishing up a short right now that I'm like so excited to get it out there in the world. It's just, it's going to be probably post it right after we get off this interview. But it's just like I have a series about slow rolls, and this is the first one of the series, and I'm just so excited to get it out. And there's whether it's the 7 deuce Eureka, whether it's this Eureka, I get far more like the passion, like the juices flow a lot more from that. I love poker. Don't get me wrong. I love it, but I would rather like up my game on the creative side than like, join a training site and like, and get a coach and like spend half my week on that. And no shade at people who do that. It's just not. I don't think I'm built that way.
Cool. So, so that video is going to be coming out in the next day or two. When should your knuckle dragging, mouth breathing audience try to look for that video to show up on your feed?
The short should come out today. I don't know. I still don't know what it's a nice way of putting it, by the way. Yeah, I don't know exactly. I still, after all this time, don't know the best time to release stuff. I just sort of, I finish it and I can't wait to put it out there in the world. So honestly, I think once I just sort of like touch up the audio, and I have to get, these shorts are tricky, and I love this challenge. It's kind of like my playwriting, where I won't get into too much of the details, but the kinds of plays I write have limitations. Like so basically, like I write plays that mostly get produced at schools and at the amateur level. So you can't have, F-bombs, you can't have massive violence, you can't have sex, you can't have all this stuff. So you have to sort of like, you have a very specific paint, palette you can work with. Yeah. So similarly with these shorts, like with the long form, I can, make it 15 minutes, 25 minutes. These 1 minute things, I mean, I've got mine right now is like a minute 10. And I'm just like, how am I going to trim these 10 seconds? And I will, but it's a fun challenge. So anyway, so once I trim the 10 seconds and get the audio levels right and make sure that, the chat or the sort of all the icons don't block the key moments, I'm assuming by the end of the day or tomorrow, I'll get that short out.
Okay. Now
I think people will like it.
This question won't be a jab. I was joking, obviously, but let me. What I'm hearing from you is that like poker is great. If I'm hearing you right, poker is great. Really enjoy it as a hobby, but at the end of the day, the creative process is ultimately what fuels the YouTube experience, and that's where your real like joy and passion is. Is that fair to say? Like that poker is kind of almost like just the category you happen to be in the creative space on YouTube. Is that fair?
Yes and no. Yeah, that's mostly fair. I would say I do. And you can, ask my wife, ask my closest friends, like they know I love poker. Like when poker is happening the way I want it to happen, in a way where you're like, I'll give you an example. I played the mini main event at the World Series of Poker. And for the first like 8 or 9 levels, I was playing like the best poker of my life. And it was just like, it was just such like all my bluffs were getting through, all of my, where normally I might, let me check back river. He might have 2 pair. No, I know he's got a worse ace. I'm going to go for thin value. Like everything was just boom. I'm 4-betting and, flop the boat, that kind of just like everything. So there's luck. There's run good, play well, all that stuff. But
yeah.
So I love that stuff. And by the way, it's kind of a turbo. So like two levels of card death and I'm short. So I didn't cash. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But the point is that I was trying to make is I love the game so much. And you mentioned, Jess, before about sponsorships and things like that. So to get back to that question and Sean's question, I am in the process right now of finding the right partnerships, because I think that's if I want to be able to combine my creative process and poker, which I would love to do, and make that more hours of my week, that I need to partner with a company or companies that where we can all benefit. So whether that's, helping with brand awareness or being an ambassador for a card room or for a poker company or multiple ones where there's not a conflict of interest, like that to me is, I would love to do that, where I could play more poker, justify playing more poker, and then be able to cash out and then sit down with a piece of paper. And yes, I use a piece of paper sometimes. And be able to do both. I would love that, but I can't at this point justify spending a month or 2 or more on a video where I get paid, but I don't get paid. The ROI is like not where it needs to be. So it's like I so far it's been a passion project that pays some, but as someone of an advanced age as mine, I can't justify that forever.
An advanced age.
That's an expression in pregnancy. When a woman is above, I forget what it is, like 32, they call it advanced maternal age or something like that. It's like, oh, you got to get something, or it's worse. It's just like, you got to think of something better. Like, you don't want to tell anyone that, certainly not someone who's like very pregnant, or that you're at advanced whatever it is. It's not good. Not a good look for BG community.
So instead of asking someone if they're pregnant, it would be more appropriate to say, "Are you in the advanced stages of?"
Yeah, I have a buddy of mine recently said that he recently told someone, congratulations on being pregnant, and they weren't pregnant. Yeah. And I told him, I was like, I have a rule. Yeah. I don't care if you are a day from delivering the baby. I don't care if there's an arm emerging from the woman. It's not worth it. Just say, like, how's the weather, or do you like the Indiana Pacers? It doesn't it's not worth it. If there's a 0.5% chance that this person is not pregnant, come up with a different thing. Just like, you look great. And the subtext there could be, you look great for someone pregnant. But instead, if you say, when's the baby due? They're like, no, I'm just large. Then where are you?
Right.
It's terrible. Just don't do it. It's not worth it.
So just assume that arm is some kind of a birth defect and move on. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and then it's even worse. Then they're like, you're making fun of my vaginal arm? How dare you? Yeah, just not worth it. Don't do it.
Oh my goodness. All right,
that's my advanced poker advice. Don't congratulate a woman for being pregnant. Unless you impregnated the woman.
Okay. Okay.
In that case, you probably know.
Okay. You heard it here, folks. You heard it here. All right. That was fantastic stuff. Okay. Well, I'm going to ask you, on this channel, we do a lot of like playing poker and then taking the money and making an investment with it. So I'm curious, do you do any investing with your poker money, or on the, even if it's not necessarily poker money, let's say you came into a big windfall from poker. Do you have plans to invest? Do you actively invest? Where's your investing right now?
I've got a boring answer. I don't play enough poker for it to be. I'm a winning player, but I don't make enough on a yearly basis for that. But I invest like boring old man investments. I make sound, reliable investments in mutual fund. It's nothing terribly riveting. Like, I don't like, for instance, if someone approached me with a $500,000 investment at a poker table, I'm not going to accept that offer.
Sure.
I'm taking a fake shot at someone. I just don't, I'm a pretty risk averse person in a lot of ways.
Gotcha.
And investments are usually just something that I feel is reliable, and we'll put our kids in college where they want to go, and we'll retire comfortably.
Yeah, nice. No, that mutual funds are
index funds,
man.
Index funds, people.
Yeah.
Don't. If someone comes to you with I'm sure crypto. I have friends who have made a ton in crypto. I got bluffed by someone at Hustler Casino Live who made a ton from crypto. Where I did not think he would 4-bet with 7-4, 7-5 suited, but he did. But yeah, that's what crypto money can do for you. So crypto, I guess, but I haven't really researched that.
Yeah. Did you guys happen to see? I'm gonna take us off course for just a second, but did you happen to see the roast of Tom Brady when they did the crypto joke? This was phenomenal. I don't know if you saw it or not, but this was phenomenal. He the gal's like, Tom Brady, somehow you managed to lose $30 million in crypto. She's like, even Gronk said, me know that not real money. So good. So good.
Awesome.
Anyway. All right. Well, let's see. Fellas, I'm going to wrap us up with some things we don't like at the poker table here in just a minute. I've got one more question before we do that, but do either of you have anything before we move on to finishing this thing up?
Actually, I do have a question. It was based on something that you said. So do you think that as you get better at poker, that it's going to become more mechanical, and therefore to your sort of artistic way of thinking, it's going to be less interesting.
Great question.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I haven't thought of that. I mean, I'm sure, I'll say this. When I started this show, after the first few episodes, I kept thinking like, gosh, I mean, at some point I'll run out of ideas. And then some poker player does something absolutely absurd. And I'm like, no, there's no end to the absurdity that I can satirize.
Yeah.
I would like to think that if this becomes like a bunch of like RoboCop poker players, just like, that I'll still be able to sort of mock them relentlessly, and it'll just be a different kind of fun. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong if like right now my co-stars are like drunk, people, but the new co-star could be, just nerds on computers. But I think I'm a pretty equal opportunity roaster. I feel like I can roast anybody pretty relentless. And that's the thing. Also with my roasting, like I have like fake beef with everybody, and some people like really don't pick up on that it's fake. I got people who, I had this long running fake beef with Brad Owen, and people defend that guy like it's their their mother. They're like, how you Brad Owen, Bradley Eugene Owen? How dare you? Even though Brad, like, if you watch episode, what is it? It's the episode that's got Andrew Nemi and Doug Polk on the thumbnail, but it's called like I cheat. Brad Owen. Oh no, sorry, Andrew Nemi and Doug Polk accused me of cheating in their poker room or whatever.
Yeah.
But like that whole episode, I'm like blasting Owen and Nemi and Polk, and then at the very end, Brad Owen does like a video. He like FaceTimes me. He's just like, "What's your problem with me, Slow Poker?" He's in on the joke. He's in the video. People are like, "Oh, why? What's your problem with Brad Owen?" It's like, all right, so let the record show. I hate to sort of reveal all. I have no problem with Brad Owen. I'm sorry to sort of like reveal this like hidden secret. Brad Owen seems like a lovely guy. I don't know him that well. We've hung out a half dozen times, but I think he's a lovely guy. But anyway, so sorry, Tom. Yes, I don't think I think there will always be a way to have fun with poker. I'd like to think.
All right, tell us about what you dislike the most at the table. Let's hear a couple of things that make you hot under the collar, as the old folks would say.
I have a bunch of stories. I'm trying to think of the one that stands out. This is going to be. I'll give you a few quick ones. So one is. Yeah. And this is my fault, but it really bugged me at the time. So at the series, I was playing one of the tournaments, and then I thought this is my fault for not paying attention, but I thought it had folded to me in the small blind. And I asked the dealer, I was like, it folds to me, it's just heads up. She goes, yeah. And so I raised with like a kind of just an ace, just because and the guy just like snap folds. And then the limper over there like calls. And I was just like, and this limper, like, he was gonna like I should have just called every bet he plays, just because I was just like, he turned over an ace after I folded. He was just like, I was like, yeah, I have one of those too, But anyway, but it was I was bummed out that like I asked the question and I got the wrong answer. Now I'm well aware that it's like incumbent on the poker player to confirm. Like if the dealer says that bet is 2,200, it's like if it's 2,100, like you should know that. But anyway, yeah, that's one thing. Two, like I don't mean to sound like a great, some white knight or whatever, but just the amount of like absolute like gross misogyny at the table. Like I was in Texas and like there was this woman who left the table and like people were just throwing on the C word. Like it was like, yeah, like it's like, what? She was perfectly nice. And why are you anyway? So that's bad. And then I think my number one pet peeve is when I was heads up for 10 grand, and this guy was using a solver like with his rail, and I was just like, we're playing for $10,000. Like, get off your freaking laptop. So that was the worst.
Right. You were playing for 10K, or it was a 10K entry? No,
I was playing for 10K. It was this past World Series poker. So I was heads up with this like guy named Jonathan Tomato. I forget his last name. Yeah. He and I were in this hand. We were heads up. Mm-hmm. And yeah, these two guys, one of them is, God, what's his name? It's like Joel Edgerton, I want to say his name is,
Yeah.
or Joe. Anyway, and then some other guy. They were like helping him with the computer, and it's just whatever. So I got second place and still cashed for a ton, but I wanted the bracelet, and I feel like that was just like bad form.
Yeah, and tell us about your rail at that event.
My rail was mostly 0.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to say a couple of things that may not relate, but may relate. So, what Slow Poker was saying about like introducing some femininity to like the space, the poker space. Like I find that, like, I'm a social worker, and I feel like I have, like when somebody wins like a big pot, it seems like it's very easy for, it makes sense for them to go, yeah, yes, I won. But in my head, I see the person that lost, it's like, oh, that got like 2 outed. And like, I have trouble with that. Like for myself, like you should celebrate. Like it's a tough game, and there's variance, and like also like with changing tables, I have this idea. Like I'm thinking of the other table, because like how do you change tables, right? You look at the other tables, you see who's playing, what the action is, and like, oh yeah, that looks like a good table for me to join. But then sometimes when you're looking, they're looking at you, and then you move tables. And why did you change tables, right? So I have a little conflicted feelings, and I agree. Like sometimes when you're at a table with, some great players, there's a part of me that's like, oh, maybe I'll learn something, and it's great to be around these guys. But then, of course, like there might be another table. So anyway, things that sort of. I don't know. Yesterday is just coming to mind. I was next to somebody that had a very strong smell, and that was hard for me. But the worse the smell, the better the table, right? So
That's a hard and fast rule.
yeah, that's a hard and fast rule. So you can't really.
I've never heard of this rule.
Jess, for our next episode, I want to see on the background of your wall there just a little poster that says, the stronger the smell, the better the table.
Just gonna hang up those like trees that you see on rearview mirrors, just like
Yes.
just across the poker table.
Yes. Tom, let's hear what do you dislike about a poker table? What drives you crazy?
Well, okay, I was playing poker earlier today, and I mean, okay, the part I don't like about I live on the border between Canada and the United States. So whereas you guys might, let's say in the middle of Texas, like Jess in the middle of Texas, you might have the Biden versus Trump arguments. We get twice as many arguments because we get both the Canadian version of these arguments and the American version. So like today, there was 2 guys were arguing about Biden versus Trump, and then some Canadian guys got in and they started picking sides. And I'm like, it's not our circus. These aren't our clowns. Like, why are we discussing this? We're in Canada.
Yeah.
We got our own set of clowns,
Yeah.
right? Which we can discuss. and okay, I'm all for people having spirited debate, but during the poker game, it's just slowing this thing down. Hands are taking like 3 times as long to play a hand. Like, I came here to play poker, not debate the merits of, X versus Y. Like, I could do that at home. Right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I kind of find that sort of thing, like I'm okay with people discussing this sort of stuff, but then even the dealers started to get involved, and I was like, oh my God, this is going to take forever to play a hand. So anyway, that's kind of a pet peeve, but not because, like pick a side. I don't really care, but let's keep the game going, please.
Yeah. Yeah, and my political disclaimer, I actually like talking politics at the table when it's done well. Like, I think it's hard to do it well, but I enjoy when you have someone where whether you agree or disagree, you can just discuss ideas and stuff. Like, well, you're not in a hand, and well, the game is going on, and the table can kind of discuss stuff. But I can't stand it when somebody comes in and just tells you, this is how it is, this is the problem. And like the whole table gets fired up. Everyone's arguing and yelling at each other because it's not a conversation. It's them just like planting their flag and in the middle of the table and telling you what's going on. It drives me nuts. I do enjoy when you're like, oh, why do you think that? And how does that, I enjoy getting to know people and their views and stuff. But yeah, when you just come in and you're like, ah, and then the whole table is on fire and everybody's like, no, he's evil. No, he's the greatest. Ah. And yeah, no poker gets played. I will say probably one of my biggest pet peeves, there's several, but one of my biggest ones is when people, I tend to, in spots, just pause and think, okay, what am I going to do here? And if you're actually thinking while you're playing, it takes more than 4 to 5 seconds. But a lot of these guys, it's like they're just on autopilot and I have this hand or I don't have a hand. And so we're going and like, why are you stopping to think? I want to play cards. And it drives me nuts when I've been thinking for maybe 20, 30 seconds. And they're like, oh, like, I'm causing them some great agony. And their guts are twisting inside of them because 30 seconds has passed without a decision. But
and I'm sure like next door, but they do it too, but they're so self-centered and not realize that they're, just the hypocrisy that's dripping off them. It's like, it's the usual sort of like, what do you call it? Protagonist syndrome, where it's just like, oh, I'm the star of this show. And, I can tank, but everyone else, you're holding up the show. Let's go.
Yeah. I do have to say, I do spew toxic masculinity. So you guys are talking all your feminine, I don't know how much soy you're eating or whatever, but I got to tell you, I'm spewing it out both armpits. I'm making this game great again. I tell you what.
At what point of this interview are we taking our out on the table? Are we doing it now or later?
Well, as soon as
we're whipping them out.
Just a second. Let me add the blur feature.
Oh, no deal. No
deal if we're blurring. Okay.
No. We got to keep it real.
Okay. Wait, when you were talking earlier about a baby's arm, was that? Was there some foreshadow? Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Enough of this. John, thanks for being here. Before we get out of here, tell people where they can find you, or where they should check out your content and what's coming up.
Slow Poker on YouTube mostly, but also all my social Slow Poker Time. And yeah, just subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow me on the socials, and spread the word. And people ask what they can do. Just like tell all your poker buddies, because I love making this stuff, but I'm terrible at the marketing and terrible. I'm an old guy, so social media, it's like I do it, but it's not my impulse to do it. So anyway, if you want to help my show, just like spread the word as far and wide as you can. And what's coming up soon is I'm doing live streams every week this month, so you can come in and ask me questions there. And yeah, just got a bunch of shorts that I'm banging out, like 3 a week, that I'm having fun making. So yeah, subscribe and notification bell and all this stuff so you don't miss stuff.
The work speaks for itself. It is worth your time. Like I said, just found this channel recently, and it's absolutely worth watching. So
see, bad marketing. He's in poker, and he just found, it's terrible. I'm awful. I'm the worst.
No, you got a lot of people though that are singing the praises, so word is spreading. But
thank you.
Right on, man. Well, thank you for taking the time. Thanks for hanging out with us. Sure appreciate it.
Thank you. That's fun.
All right, guys. Thanks for hanging for the week and for the episode, and we will talk to you next time.